Fab Fashionistas. I am Stephanie J.
And I'm Liz Everett.
Thank you for joining us on your Saturday morning on the Fab Lab, where we are all about fashion and the art of beauty. And we have an episode for you.
We sure do. But before we get into that, let's talk about how extremely happy we are that it is the weekend. This week was cuckoo crazy banana crackers for me. I had a photo shoot for a client, so getting clothing ready for that, getting all the direction done. How about you, Steph? What did you have going on?
On my end, it is award season, and we are preparing for so many award shows. It's been, like you said, cuckoo crazy banana crackers. Is that correct?
Yes.
That describes it so appropriately. So it was a booked, busy, and fabulous week for the both of us, getting into fittings, dressing clients, getting them ready to walk down the red carpet, whether that means putting them in their clothes, making them feel fabulous, getting accessories. Some of them are even getting, facials and getting their beautification all together because they want to look number one when they walk down that red carpet and paparazzi is all up in their face. You got to have that facial. You want to have that glow, right?
It's so true. And I do think that skincare is one of the things that people don't think about when they think about style, because to you and I, when we say style, we mean head to toe, because honey, the wrong hairstyle can jack up that whole look.
It takes another meaning from the headlines to the hemlines.
The hemlines, okay?
You know what I mean?
Yes, that's do.
So true. Headlines to the hemlines for sure. Been a booked and busy week, but we are happy to be here with you on this Saturday morning. We have a special guest, our insider interview with Darnell Jamal Lisby. He is a wealth of knowledge, a fashion historian at the Cleveland Institute of Art. He is fantastic, and you guys are in for a treat.
You truly are. We actually met him originally in New York City right after he was on the team for the Met Gala's Heavenly Bodies exhibit. And it's just astonishing what he has done over the last 3 years since 2018. So can't wait to share that with you guys. On my end, I'm going to be talking about 4 incredible Black fashion icons that you need to know about. And let me just tell you, honey, creating that list was so hard, Steph.
Look, on my end, I have 5 Black fashion designers you should know right now, and that was equally hard. I'm like, but only 5? Are you sure?
I know.
I only do 5. Are you sure? Let me call Jorge and ask him if I can do a few more. So look forward to that. We also have our Fab Lab analyst, because as always, we're taking you from the headlines to the hemlines. So we've got our special guest, Oliver Brown, who is a fashion stylist, and Kiki, founder of Kirby Revolution. She's going to be with us, and we are super excited to get into it with our Fab Lab analysts.
That's so true. All right, you guys, we'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back, Fab Fashionistas, to the Fab Lab on the Mocha Media Network. And today we have a treat for you. Our Fab Lab analysts are with us, and let's get into it by introducing them, because here at the Fab Lab, we are all about fashion and the art of beauty. So our first guest today is none other than the Oliver Brown, fashion stylist. Tell the people a word.
Oh, Lord, I don't even know where to begin. First, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's long overdue. I've missed you guys dearly. Yes, I am a celebrity and editorial stylist. I've been freelancing for 5 years now, and this journey has just been one. It started off literally one thing, and it's like evolved and blossomed into another. I know Steph and Liz from meeting back in Fashion Week during those long lines and long waits. And so I'm so honored to, just circle back to this amazing moment and just, do this with you. So thank you again.
Well, thank you for being with us. And next we have Kiki, founder of Kirby Revolution. Thank you so much for joining us, Kiki.
Hi, ladies. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Kiki Samo, and I am the founder of Kirby Revolution and the producer of Kirby Fashion Week and quite a few other things. I'm an award-winning producer. I do some styling on the side. We all got our 12 side hustles. And I've been in fashion probably 20 years. It's been a long time.
Well, we are so happy to have you, Kiki. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to talk all about the fashion headlines because, we go from the headlines to the hemlines, right, Liz? So
That's right.
Let's get into it, shall we?
Well, we are going to begin with iconic moments in Black fashion history, according to Kimmy Bino. I'm here for it. Anyways, Kim Russell just killed it in the pages of Vogue, bringing us some really incredible, iconic fashion moments. And I have to say that my favorite was Janet wearing custom Alexander McQueen from the Super Bowl. That was my favorite. Oliver, I want to know what your favorite was. What's your favorite moment?
So that was one of them. I'll start there. I would say my favorite was the Tracy Ellis Ross and the Diana Ross moment. It's Mugler. It's, back in the day, like his shows were an experience. It was more than a show. It was like a circus of just all sorts of greatness. And so for them to, walk, I don't know if they're their final walk or not, but it was just a moment. And that was definitely my favorite. Iconic, like she said. So
truly iconic. Kiki, how about you? What was your favorite?
Actually, he stole my favorite.
Passing them along.
Favorite, but we're not gonna go there. But see, I have a passion for Motown fashion, not because I'm from Detroit, but for the simple fact of he's no longer here, Maxine Powell, who worked for Motown and created a lot of the iconic looks that people do today. I mean, she was the stylist for Beyonce before there was a Beyonce. So I have like this little thing in my heart for anything Motown. So when they brought up Diana Ross and her beautiful daughter, I was so in for it because I love that time where fashion learned what glam really looked like. And it was crazy because it came from a Black woman. Now, I'm all about women's empowerment, but I got to give my sisters some love when I see it. And, seeing how that just birthed an entire century of fashion was just insane. I mean, their stylists are still stealing looks from that period right now. So that was my favorite because it's a little hometown history. And on top of that, it is Black History Month still. And Maxine Powell was amazing. She gave us all the Beyonce looks before Beyonce was even born.
What I love is Venus Williams' skirt, because you took sports, but then also made it fashion and it was functional. Okay, I'm here for this too. Love it so much. Fashion and function. Yes. Let's have more of that.
I totally agree. Now let's move on to custom designer, Derica Cole Washington, reflecting, which first of all, you guys, I had not read this particular section in Vogue where they really are bringing Black voices to life and really having people talk about the journey behind styling. And I think a lot of people don't know about that journey behind styling. And so she was recently nominated for a Costume Designers Guild Award, which is phenomenal. And she came up underneath Ruth E. Carter, as well. So I think that is so great. Kiki, what's your take on this?
I love Ruth. So anything that Ruth has birthed, I'm here for it. So I was so happy when I found out that she won, her protege won the award, that I was just excited just to see her grow from nothing into this beautiful flower that Ruth birthed. It was awesome.
That's such an amazing sentiment. And Oliver, what are your thoughts on this?
So it's funny. So I actually was very aware of the Zola movie that she was a part of. I didn't know she did the costume design for it. So it was great for her to get that nomination from that movie. I remember back in 2015 when, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the movie or watched the movie, but it started off with tweets and kind of like, then went to a movie. But I remember back in 2015, being in a car with my friend, reading those tweets and to see the characters come to life by her costume. It was a really cool moment and she did a really amazing job. And so the character was from Detroit. Kiki, you're from Detroit. I just want to say I'm from Michigan. So we're here.
Oh,
Yeah.
Detroit, yes. Stand up.
Come on. I live in Lansing. So yes. So home. Yes. Michigan's a home. But to see those characters that, were based in Detroit come to life by her costume was great. It was fun. And she did a really, really good job. And so I loved it. And her story, literally working under Ruth and, just really coming up from that. Ruth is amazing. We are familiar with her work. So to have that knowledge and to work with someone with so much experience, it's great that this nomination, she deserves it. And I'm sure she's gonna get the award next time, so.
I agree. And let me ask you, Oliver, can you give us 2 points, right, between the difference between costuming, right, and costume design and like fashion styling? Because I think a lot of people think that it's like all the same thing, but you really have to give way to the character and to the script and to what it is.
Yeah, and I think you just said it. Like that's the difference when you're styling a character. It can, there's moments of similarity. We all do, storytelling in some sense, right? But when it comes to actual costuming, you're developing a character and you're growing with that character. And so the clothes really have to translate for that. Where as a fashion stylist, which still is a very broad term. If you break that down, you have a celebrity stylist, you have a personal stylist, you have a commercial stylist. And so within those subcategories, you kind of have these different roles. And so with that, a celebrity stylist, it's what it is. You're working with, talent on developing looks for red carpet or for, their personal, music videos or whatever. Whereas, your editorial styling, you're working with, magazines and, you're creating stories for their audiences. And then commercial styling, you're typically working with, I would say brands such as like, H&M or your retailers and kind of creating a story that represents their buyers or their clientele. So they all do similar things, but they all have different roles too. If that makes sense. I feel like that was long-winded. Yes.
Now, we're going to switch over to the thoughts and details that are behind Mickey Guyton's look. Steph, will you tell us a little bit more about Mickey Guyton's look from the Super Bowl?
Yes, absolutely. Her stylist, Memsor, he hit it out of the park in some ways. I've got my own personal opinions and I'll share with you in a bit. about the look, but the details and the facts are that the gown was a floor-length gown by American designer Sergio Hudson, who we all know and love. It had this really strong, refined aesthetic with very powerful shoulders, shoes in an ombre color blue that matched the gown. And I really love the storyline that it was the same color of a ring that Memsor's grandmother had given to him, and he wanted her to wear the same color. So overall, really great look. Kiki, what are your thoughts?
I was personally in love with the blues. The blues really set the tone. I felt like it was very Americanish also. And it kind of went with the theme of the Super Bowl trying to do this whole "we are one" thing this year, which I think, considering the show, I think went over pretty darn well. So I really just liked the color combos of the entire look. I felt like it was perfect for the Super Bowl.
I totally have to agree with you, Kiki. Like, honestly, I personally am a huge fan of Sergio, was a huge fan of the shoe, and honestly did not think that the earrings got enough hoopla. But Oliver, what do you think, boo?
I'm going to be the one that disagrees. I was not a fan. I wasn't a fan. The color was nice. It was very American. I love the fact that it was by an American designer, which is great. It was just very church Sunday morning for me, which is not, nothing is wrong with that. But it was just, with her, being from Texas, it had a lot of modesty to it. So that Southern Belle thing really played its part. But I feel like, I don't know, it was missing something. Like it could have been maybe, I don't know, like maybe if it was like glittered or like embellished or something, just something that really like gave it to us. But it was a no for me, unfortunately. I've seen better.
It was safe. It was too safe in
It
my
was.
estimation. Like, you have this huge platform, and while I really loved a dramatic shoulder, I think that they could have done a little bit more. They talked in the article about her having like a quiet sort of confidence, but like her newest album really talks about like creating a platform and building her own narrative within the country music scene, and that has kind of been very explosive. So from my own personal stylist perspective, I would have wanted her look to also be as explosive. But that's just me personally.
That's all right. Me and Kiki know how we feel. And I guess you and Oliver can be on the other team. Okay. Okay.
Other team.
Well, that's okay, because fashion is about the Kiki, honey. And we love to get into fashion and the art of beauty here on the Fab Lab. And next we have Gloria James kicking off her all-star experience with House of Glow fashion show at Cleveland's State Theater, which I think is just what a great way to give back and to showcase Black designers who are coming up, as well. Kiki, what was some of your favorite piece of this coverage?
Honestly, I did not see the whole show. I did retweet it and I did send it out to some people I know. I did not have the time to actually watch the show because I was very busy working on Kirby Fashion Week, and I not a plug. That's so not a plug. I'm telling you, it's so not a plug. It's just that, yeah, I was busy. But from what I heard, it was really what kind of pushed everybody over of loving the show was just the Black empowerment. That's what I kept hearing about. They felt empowered and it was beautiful. So I actually need to go back and watch it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. How about you, Oliver?
I thought it was amazing. I didn't watch the show. I did, check out the images, and, I could feel the energy from the images. And what it reminded me of was like an old Sean John fashion show from like 2006 or something. Like it was explosive. Like the clothes were just out there. I could just feel the energy from that. And I love that. I think what she's doing is great. I don't know if this is an annual thing for her, if I missed that, which is awesome. And so, yeah, I thought it was really amazing. And hopefully I can go to the next one because I would love to be a part of it in some way. So if she watches, she heard it. It was here. I said it.
Hey, Glow, how you doing,
Hey.
girl? Steph, how did you feel about it? Did you have a favorite part?
I think my favorite part, well, obviously giving back to the community, bringing designers up who are emerging, like that's super important all the time, not just Black History Month. But so that's a really great part. I love that she's donating the coats to the community. And a lot of the proceeds are going back to the HBCU in Ohio. So those are really great things. But I think my personal favorite part was the designs that Jay Bolin styled for the show. There was this monochromatic green number. It was like a green leather coat with a fur stole around the neck with green snakeskin boots. I need one in that color in my size to go in my closet that I already can't fit anything into. So Jay Bolin, if you're watching, hook it up. So that was my favorite part, but it was definitely an all-star experience. So like Oliver, I hope to get to go in the future.
Well, it had two of Stephanie's favorite things, you guys. Let's be real. Snakeskin and fur. Like those two things on any outfit. She and I will take two in every color. And we are going to close out with New York Fashion Week's Black in Fashion Council showroom for up and coming designers to help up and coming Black designers shine. And honestly, I just think that any opportunity that people get to showcase up and coming Black designers and up and coming designers, period, is just an amazing thing, because I don't think anybody realizes how hard it is for folks to get their shine. Kiki, you're putting together a huge event coming up. So I would love your thought process on this Black in Fashion Council showroom.
At first I thought, okay, it's a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a little bit opportunistic, but, I thought about my event and working with the organization of Black designers and seeing how excited they were. And I realized how badly they need a platform. They really don't have one. So I'm all for it now. I'm the one that's waving the Black flag, like, hey, let's all go. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. At first, I was like, but now I see why it's needed. It should have happened a long time ago.
Very true. Oliver, what are your thoughts on this?
This was an education moment for me because I wasn't aware that this even existed. And so it's really exciting. I mean, like we know, there aren't a lot of platforms and opportunities for people of color to really showcase their artistry. And so I think any, organization or any, anyone that's trying to help, lift up people in their art and their brand is very, very important. After reading the article, there was some designers I thought were really, really pushing what we need in fashion from a sustainability standpoint, as well as from a creative standpoint. And so I think there was one woman that created a bag that can be worn 4 different ways, a backpack, a crossbody, a clutch, which, correct me if I'm wrong, women are busy. They don't have time to go home and change their bags. And so having a bag that you can flip over your shoulder or, whatever, and it kind of do what you want, I think it's awesome. So we need this. And so I love it.
I totally agree with you guys. I think that it is so important, and there's not enough and not enough places that we can showcase, underserved communities and then the artists that are in those communities as well. Steph, what are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree with everybody, mimic everybody's opinions. I just reading the article, the idea that, people are creating their own patterns and, waves from enlarged to, enlarged camouflage, like that to me seems really, really interesting. Like I would want to know the process of those things. So like Oliver said, it was a learning experience to read this article because there are so many parts of fashion. Like, although I am in fashion, there are so many parts of fashion that I still don't know about it. So it's always that learning curve, that there is no graduation, and that we take every moment to kind of like harness that knowledge so that we know moving forward, and then giving spaces to those who are underrepresented in every moment that we can.
So very true. So very true. Well, thank you guys for joining us this week. Oliver and Kiki, you guys are so fabulous. Kiki, tell everybody where they can follow you on Instagram.
You can follow me at Kirby Revolution.
Absolutely. And get ready because Kirby Fashion Week is coming. And Oliver, let them know where they can follow you on Instagram.
So that's Oliver Brown. It's OLVRBRWN. And yeah, follow me. Let's do it.
Yeah. And honey, see his phenomenal creations. You hear me? Okay. Our good friend is doing the thing. Okay. So follow both of our fabulous Fab Lab analysts from this week, and you guys will be right back after these messages. Welcome back, Fab Lab fashionistas. I'm Liz Everett, your style and beauty guru, award-winning image strategist, and one of your style besties right here at the Fab Lab. Now this week I have 4 incredible Black female fashion icons that you are not only going to want to look up, but you're also going to be so inspired by, just like me. All right guys, so let's get into it. Our first incredible model, fashion icon, and inspiration is Pat Cleveland. She was a fashion and print model who rose to prominence in the 60s and 70s, and may I say that she lit that camera on fire with her beauty, her grace, and her stunning presence. Right after her, we have Iman, who is the definition of fashion and rock and roll. Not only was Iman a worldwide, and still is, to be honest, a worldwide inspirational fashion icon and muse to many designers, she also became David Bowie's wife and has an international beauty line of her own. I mean, if that's not inspiration and like an original boss babe, then I don't know who is. All right, next we have Grace Jones. Once again, the marriage of like fashion and rock and roll, but Grace Jones is also a musician herself and an incredible actress, and her fluidity really has inspired so many designers. And when I Googled her, it didn't come up Grace Jones, it came up Grace Jones Fashion, which lets you know that so many designers have really taken from her script of androgyny and really just bringing masculinity and femininity to the balance place. It's absolutely fabulous to me. And then we have Pam Greer, who is a leading actress and really a trendsetter. She is known as the first female action star. So, I mean, hello, from her fro to her, dynamite way of acting on camera, she really has brought so many things, including bell bottoms and different prints and patterns to life. And overall, a real boss babe that I just love featuring in this segment. A couple other people that I wanted to feature is definitely Eartha Kitt and Josephine Baker, but these 4 really will give you some spice, some inspiration. Look them up on Pinterest, YouTube, and all the things so that you can continue to get inspired by these women. All right, Fab Lab fashionistas, make life your runway. And remember, we want you to look, feel, and stay fabulous right here on the Fab Lab on the Mocha Media Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Fab Lab. I am Stephanie J, and this is my co-host.
I'm Liz Everett.
And today we have a treat for you guys. Today we have Darnell Lisby. He is the assistant curator at the Cleveland Museum of Art. He is a fashion historian, and I'm just going to rattle off a few of his accomplishments to name just like a very few, because there are so many. I could go on for days. He is a brilliant fashion historian. He is focused on fashion dating back to the 14th century, but really is focused on illustrating the intersection of Blackness and fashion in the 20th and 21st century. His resume includes the education coordinator at Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum in New York. He's also been a part of the Museum of the Fashion Institute of Technology, the Costume Institute of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where he helped research the Heavenly Bodies exhibition, which Liz and I are a huge fan of. So those are just some of that's the very tip of the iceberg of some of his accolades. And we are so excited to have you with us today, Darnell. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. We appreciate it. Liz and I are both huge fans of your brilliant work. Tell the folks, I mean, I went down, like I said, tip of the iceberg. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Of course, and thank y'all both for allowing me this platform to just talk to, your audience. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, it's very, my goal as a fashion curator, as a fashion historian, is really kind of using the medium of fashion in a way to connect people together and unify people, and to appreciate each other's differences, as well as, things that we actually have in common as well. And so I find it a useful medium within the history of art that people find the most tangible, right? Because when you go to an art museum, there's so many different art departments. I work at the Cleveland Museum of Art, as you mentioned, as the assistant curator of the Cleveland Museum of Art, with the specific focus on curating fashion exhibitions. So I'm like a sole department by myself on my own. So I'm like a department of one at the museum, bringing fashion exhibitions now to the foreseeable future. But with that said, like the Cleveland Museum of Art or the Met or Brooklyn or the De Young or LACMA, any of the large encyclopedic institutions, you go to the museum and you see, all types of art dating back thousands of years: Egyptian art, Roman art, European paintings, etc. But a lot of those mediums, there's really kind of a little bit of a barrier where it's a lot more work for those curators to figure out a way to connect those works of art that are so, they're of certain age to the contemporary eye. Whereas fashion, it's not that difficult because we all participate in it. Not everyone many people may not be like great painters or great sculptors or, decorative art or furniture makers. But at the end of the day, people put styles together, no matter how simple, whether it's a black t-shirt and jeans like Mark Zuckerberg, or, something that is more ostentatious, or, more glammed up, for lack of better terms, like a La Roche, right? Like, and there's everybody else in between. And so at the end of the day, clothing, dress, and fashion specifically is something that I connect with, as well as everyone else. And I know that's where I know that I can really feed messages that I believe that are placed on my heart to connect to people. So it's just been a part of my practice. And I've been blessed to do a lot of different things. I've worked with Ruth Carter with the exhibition that she did for New York Fashion Week right before she won the Oscar. I've been able to contribute to different articles and publications, including the Black Fashion Designers of America book that Liz Way at FIT recently edited. I wrote a chapter on Jay Jackson, who was the first Black man to head a couture house, Jean-Louis Cheret, from 1969 to 1970. And yeah, a host of other things. It's kind of like hard for me to not to brag, but it's hard for me to even remember off the top of my head. But I've been blessed, and now I'm at the Cleveland Museum of Art, and and Willie Smith, of course, Willie Smith Street Couture, and shout out to all the people who went to see that exhibition at Cooper Hewitt. I was on the curatorial team that made that happen, along with Alexandra Cunningham Cameron, who's the curator of contemporary design there. She brought me on board, which I'm so blessed and thankful for her. but now I'm at Cleveland and I'm focused on curating my next exhibitions that will hopefully be soon, to say the least.
Where do you find your greatest inspirations at when you're creating an exhibit? I mean, like the Willie Smith exhibit, personally, like,
Yeah.
it made me proud of Black fashion. It made me proud of streetwear. And I almost died 2 times just knowing that I knew you. One was your article in Teen Vogue about Beyonce's brain cannot think of what it was, but I watch it all the time.
Black is King. I think
yes,
that was the
when
recent
you
one.
went goddess by goddess and line by line, precept by precept, concept by concept, I was like, he is an apostle of fashion, okay? Like, he just took us to fashion church. But when Adele referenced that exhibit in Adele, when Adele referenced the Cooper Hewitt exhibit in Vogue, that's where she wanted to be, you know, I was just like, did Darnell pass out? Because I'm passing out because I even know it. Like, this is so cool. You know, so where do you continue to get this inspiration? Because I think it's amazing that your inspirations inspire so many others, including big names in Hollywood.
I mean, I was very shocked. I didn't know about Adele until after she came to the exhibit. So I knew long before everybody else, but I knew after she came. So just to give you like a timeline. So I was definitely freaking out that she was like in the building. I want to say I was already at Cleveland. No, was I at Cleveland already? I was already at Cleveland at that point. But the exhibition was still up. So I was very stoked. Alexandra contacted me, and actually also Willie Smith, the exhibition came from her conception. She was the exhibition came out of a design focus, because Willie Smith was very much involved in the design world. And when I mean design world, I know for us fashion people, fashion design is the mind, but for a place like Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum and places like the Savannah College of Art and Design and, you know, other designs, Cooper Union, which used to be unified with Cooper Hewitt before they split into 2 different institutions. One's the museum, the other is the school. Design as in like graphic design, product design, furniture design, landscape design, architecture. That's what they're thinking about, not necessarily fashion design. But Willie Smith was very much involved in architecture. And fun fact, the Sephora down on 5th Avenue and 19th Street was his first store. And his apartment was across the street. One of his apartments is the building across the street before he moved to Varick Street downtown in Tribeca. And he gave that apartment across the street to the designer Alvin Bell, who was best friends with him. But that particular retail store was inspired by the park and outdoors and like Central Park and like, well, Greenwich Village, which is right there, and Washington Square Park, and really kind of all those different urban elements that are created to kind of create a natural space. And so he wanted to bring that inside the store and obviously connect it with his street, with the street inclinations of his clothing aesthetic. And so he was very much obsessed with architecture. You could see it in his showrooms. And he worked with this particular firm called Site, which was led by James Wines. And it's still, the copyright and the trademark is still owned by James Wines. But it was a collective of several different architects. And Alexandra was over at James Wines' studio to look at photos. And she came across Willie's showroom, which was, I think, if I'm not mistaken about the address, it is the Calvin Klein building, like where Calvin Klein is on 7th Avenue, if I'm not mistaken, or right next to it, either that building or next door. But it was, if you see the photos on the Willie Smith online archive, or sorry, the Willie Smith community archive is online. You can see photos of the interiors of the showroom, and those are the photos that Alexandra saw, and she was just amazed by it. She's not a fashion historian, so hence why she hired me to really kind of drive the fashion history story within Willie Smith's, career, and really tie it to all the different elements of his practice, from his collaborations with, choreographers, to his partnerships with different artists to do workwear like Christo and Jean Claude, or his artist collaborations for the t-shirts, and then connected to his runway. And so how all these elements work together was figuring that out was my role on the exhibition. So that first part where you see all the fashion with the runway shows and the videos, that was like my domain, basically. But to say, thank you.
But I think that the biggest thing is, and this is something that Stephanie and I talk about all the time, I would love your perspective on it, is like, people think that artists only do one form of art. When in fact, usually if you're a really incredible artist, you usually have some other, so you may draw really well, or you may take a lot of inspiration from painting, but you can see how other disciplines of art interconnect in order to express that visually, or express that with sound, or, and like for me, Willie Smith had a beautiful understanding of how architecture impacted how people presented themselves, and how it, like a cacophony of visual, I guess you could say,
Yes.
So I love that. And I love the way that you brought those pieces together as well. I also see that you are working on the new Black Vanguard exhibition that is coming to the Cleveland Museum of Art. Give us some insight.
Well, that was in Aperture back in 2019. It's Antoine Sargent's exhibition. So let's be very clear that it's not my exhibition. That is Antoine Sargent's. I don't need to be red flagged by Aperture. And so that is Antoine's. Antoine and I were, he's a great guy and a great curator. I know he's one of the directors at Gagosian. And so that's his project, where he and he has a book as well, the new Black Vanguard book, which is absolutely beautiful, where it's basically an assemblage of photographers that have really kind of treaded that line of, art and fashion, and really bringing them together and using them to illuminate Black experiences. So really, using that fashion photography really as a vehicle to show the spectrum of Blackness. And I think that was something that I connected with the exhibition. But it'll be opening May 8th, so it's right around the corner. And we are actually adding an additional element to the exhibition that has not been done at any other institution, which we are employing 3 stylists to create a look per stylist. So it'll be 3 looks in total that will be in conversation with the pieces. And those stylists obviously have participated in one or several of the photographs in the exhibition. So we're bringing their visions really kind of to life as an extension of the themes that run through the entire exhibition. And I really, to your early point, that's where I really find inspiration for a lot of my exhibitions, is really looking at the broader culture and how people are moving and what people are feeling, and leaning into that and allowing the exhibitions to speak to how people and general audiences are feeling. Because of course, a lot of my colleagues, and this is no shade to them, they're a bit older than I am, and this is no shade to anybody who isn't, but we come from two different generations of curation. And me, I'm all about, what are the people asking for? And they choose a different route, a different academic route. And there's no judgments, there's no right, there's no wrong. I just go by how people are feeling, and what audiences feel inspired me the most. And I try to connect it with all of my passions within art history. So even though I know the history of fashion, you know, for hundreds of years, my interests go back to ancient art history as well. So it's robust in that way, and I hope to continue to do it, you know, and make people happy.
So when it comes to curating exhibits, what are some of, for those folks out there who may not have ever seen a fashion exhibit or have ever gone to the Met, what are some of the steps that you go through as a fashion historian to curate those exhibits?
It's a tedious process, because like any, I think that for many generations, the fashion department, or what most museums historically have called the costume department, has always, we call, been in the basement, because they technically have. And but they go through as much rigorous development as any other art exhibition within an institution. And so for us, you know, you come up with the concept, whatever it is, then you create an object list. What objects are going to tell your story? And there you have to be very prudent, and you have to really kind of hone in on the story. I learned this from Lourdes Font, and also from Valerie Steele. Lourdes Font is the head of the master's program I did at FIT in fashion and textile studies. Previously, she was one of the professors, but then she was promoted to like an acting chair. And then Valerie Steele is the director of the museum at FIT. And I learned this from both of them in their practices. If you need multiple garments to drive home one point, take it out. And so different things like that allow us to help be very prudent in how we develop the object list of what objects we're going to use in an exhibition. From there, the research process begins, tons of books. I have my library literally right here. Tons of books, tons of reading, tons of, connecting with other curators, going around the world, trying to meet this person, that person, try to narrow down your research. And then from there, you work with all the other departments simultaneously. So I'll be working with exhibition design to see what kind of set do I want to create? What kind of experience do I want to have? We might contract that work out depending on how elaborate the exhibition is. And sometimes we don't need to. I know at Cleveland, we have very great exhibition designers, so it will be a lot less of that. But at other institutions, they may not have exhibition designers who have that quality of work that the curators may be looking for. So you're dealing with them, you're dealing with education to create programming. And then on top of that, you're dealing with the registrar because you might need loans, because I don't have a fashion collection at Cleveland. So I have to borrow everything. So I have to have a department. There's a department that we have, Registrar Department. Every museum has a registrar. And they work with me to secure all the loans and get them all shipped to the museum. And that costs lots and lots of money. Believe me, these exhibitions, I know the Met, the Costume Institute probably spends 7 figures for their exhibitions, right? And so us at Cleveland, I don't know how much I'll be able to spend, but we'll see. And I would never be able to publicly say it, but to say the least, exhibitions.
The purse strings alone, my friend. What?
Yes, they can be very expensive. I know some very expensive exhibitions. They spend a lot more in Paris. I'll say that.
Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Tell the folks.
In terms of curatorial, I can't say. From where I'm standing here, right here in Cleveland, curating exhibitions. I mean, the institution is so supportive and just very active in the vision that I want to create. And Bill Griswold, the director, is extremely supportive, and Heather Lamonides Brown, the chief curator, and Barbara Tannenbaum, my supervisor, and Sarah Scaturo, she used to be the chief conservator at the Costume Institute. Now she is the chief conservator of the Cleveland Museum of Art. They're just really my backbone at Cleveland, and they've been extremely supportive. And the board is also extremely supportive as well. So I don't know where. I assume here in Cleveland, only God knows. But in terms of my life, I mean, just continuing the work of what exhibitions, and also figuring out a way to expand how to reach people. I mean, I would love to do documentaries. I would love to, do different fun things that expand how I educate audiences on that mass scale. But, only God knows, right?
Tell the people, if they want to follow you on social media, where they can follow you at.
Sure, you can follow me. I'm mostly active on Instagram at Darnell Jamal, DarnellJamal. And on Twitter is at Darnell Jamal and then the number 2. So at Darnell Jamal 2, the number 2. And I'm also on TikTok, but I don't really use that. I just have the name so that it's mine and no one else can make it.
So smart. I know Luz and I we're like, okay, let's get the name just in case nobody else has it, because maybe one day we'll want to use it. Who knows?
Exactly. Like, I'll pursue it when I'm ready, but like, I have a TikTok, but I don't really use it. But just know it is mine, Darnell Jamal on TikTok. But that's my socials. And you can, if you're in Cleveland, you'll see me at the museum running around probably.
Well, we thank you so much for being on with us. It's been a pleasure. Guys, thank you for joining us here on the Fab Lab. Make sure you join us after this. And again, thank you to Darnell Lisby for being here with us on the Fab Lab, where we want you to look, feel, and stay fabulous. Hey fashionistas, it's Stephanie J here, and thank you for joining me on the Fab Lab, where we are all about fashion and the art of beauty. And we are going to get into it today with 5 Black fashion designers that you need to know right now. So let's go and let's get into it. Number 1, we have Christopher John Rogers. Now, if you've heard this name before, sounds a little familiar. Christopher John Rogers did a collaboration with Target earlier in 2021. Now, what I love about this is it makes luxury fashion accessible to those who cannot afford the Neiman or Bergdorf price tag that goes along with some of his higher end items. But he is characterized by the use of color and patterns, and it is phenomenal. We love Christopher John Rogers. Moving on to number 2, we have Kirby Jean Raymond. He is lovingly called Kirbito on Instagram, and he is the lead designer for his rising label, Pierre Moss. He likes to infuse personal with political. If you caught his latest couture show, many of his designs were based off of the idea of Black inventors, which is super awesome. I'd love to pick his brain and his process for designing. Number 3, we have Laquan Smith. Now, Laquan Smith is everything sexy, everything chic. He uses color, he uses cutouts, he uses leather. It just is everything that could make a woman feel sexy and beautiful. That is Laquan Smith. And his last fashion show at New York Fashion Week 2022, phenomenal. Outstanding. Go check it out. Go check out his Instagram. Beautiful. Moving on to number 4, we have Romeo Hunt. Now, Romeo Hunt has an edgy yet sophisticated approach to luxurious outerwear and attire that highlights modern apparel with a chic flair. Check it out. Check out his website. His designs are amazing, and this black jacket with rhinestone fringe is no exception. I need one of these in my wardrobe. And last but not least, and probably one of my favorites on this list, I don't want to play favorites, and we've talked about him a bit, so you probably heard us say the name Sergio Hudson. He's dressed Michelle Obama. He's dressed Mickey Guyton for the Super Bowl. He's dressed a lot of big names out there, and he is characterized by the use of monochrome. So if we're not familiar with the term monochrome, it's the use of the similar color. So I have this nice shade of mustard on. If I were wearing a skirt that was in the same color family, that would be considered monochrome. So he's super talented at using monochrome. He is an absolute genius when it comes to silhouette and tailoring. He just knows how to dress a woman's body. It's gorgeous. And he used patterns, the use of patterns and prints. He does it in such a fun and fresh way. And those are our 5 Black designers that you should know right now. I hope that you take the time to go look at their Instagrams, look at their websites, really check out some of their designs because they are incredibly talented and bring so much to the table. Thank you guys for joining me on the Fab Lab, where we are all about fashion and the art of beauty. And we want you to rock every day like it's your runway. Well, that's the end of our show, fashionistas. We want to thank you for making life your runway this Saturday morning.
And we also want to thank our Fab Lab analysts, Kiki from Kirby Revolution and Oliver Brown, celebrity fashion stylist. Oh, and make sure you guys head over to Instagram and follow us at the THEE Fab Lab.
Yes, we are all about fashion and the art of beauty here on the Fab Lab, where we want you to look, feel, and stay fabulous. Thank you for joining us, guys.